What's up, guys? In this video, I really want to talk about Metro 2033 as a whole, in the larger part of the series, as well as what makes this game really a cult classic and what makes it so special. So if you like this video or these types of videos, definitely hit that subscribe button. I hear it also makes you like 1000% cooler, so definitely do that. If you ended up liking this video, definitely hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. This is the first in the series, so we're going to do a video on each of the 3 games, and then we'll be moving on to something else. So if there's a game that you would like to see, leave in the comment down below. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop right into it. With the influx of games that are set in post-apocalyptic Russia, from Chernobyl to Stalker 2, both announced to be coming out this calendar year of 2021, there's one franchise that has followed this premise and took a spin in its own way. Metro 2033, originally released on March 16th, 2010, and a remastered version hitting stores on August 26, 2014, was based around the book franchise with the same name written by Dmitry Glukovsky. I apologize for butchering that name. Metro 2033 instantly became a cult classic, selling 1.5 million copies and spawning not 1 but 2 sequels, as well as an upcoming film now set to release in 2024. It's kind of caught in production hell, but I digress. But what made this game garner the following it has, coming from the then small team 4A Studios based out of the Ukraine and now Malta? In this series, we'll be breaking down what makes this franchise so goddamn special, starting from the very first game in the series, Metro 2033. You as the player take control of Artyom in his hometown of the exhibition station in the metro system of Moscow, where the remaining inhabitants of the once great city now reside due to the nuclear fallout that has taken over the entire globe due to mass quantities of nuclear missiles being launched in World War III. In the offset of the game, you find out that your station is under threat from a new type of mutant called the Dark Ones, which, unlike the other mutants out on the surface of Moscow, drive people to insanity rather than killing them outright as the other beasts do, causing unrest and mass murder and suicides within the metro station itself. This new threat is further realized by one of the rangers named Hunter, who comes back to Exhibition Station to warn Artyom and the station's captain of the new threat, and tells them that they need to let the other rangers know at the central station of Polis. Rangers are seen as the boldest of the bold, braving the dangers of the surface in order to gather supplies for the rest of the metro, as well as report back on the state of the world. Hunter then, with the foresight that it was likely he wouldn't be able to finish his mission, told Artyom off to the side to go ahead and finish it for him if he died or was unable to complete his mission for any other reasons, giving a timeline of 3 days of his return. And guess who ended up dying? That's right, it was Hunter. This then sends Artyom to travel throughout the metro, forcing him into political dealings with other governments, groups, and warring factions of the metro in order to make it to Polis and in turn eliminate this new threat to the remaining civilization in the metro. Along his journey, he meets with a cast of characters that all flesh out different aspects of the metro, from Bourbon the scoundrel who owes money across every other station known to man, to the mystical soothsayer Khan, who focuses more on the supernatural aspects of what is going on down in the metro, to Miller and his band of rangers who go out and brave any sort of danger in order to help eliminate any threat that could be attempted on the populace of the metro stations. Artyom must battle and sneak his way through countless tunnels, stations, and buildings on the surface in order to deal with the new threat of the Dark Ones. While the overarching narrative is simplistic in nature, with no real changes to the motive of the player's journey, the world that 4A builds in Metro 2033 truly carries the intrigue and motive of the player in pushing them to continue forward, encountering new threats, trials, friendships, and losses. And this world is what makes the Metro series stand on its own as one of the most developed gaming landscapes in history. To kind of get into where the idea came from, we need to really look back in history for a moment. During the early 20th century, predominantly during World War II, the subway and metro stations were often used as large public bomb shelters, as these created natural locations for the civilian populace to go during any sort of air raids or bombings coming from the enemy countries. During the Battle of London, for example, German bombing runs took place all over Britain, and in London, despite the government's orders to not go there, many residents ended up taking shelter for long, extended periods of time in the tube stations and tunnels, so that way they would have shelter and safety from the bombs coming from ahead from those evil fucking Nazis. After World War II, the Moscow Metro was actually further developed with this specific concern in mind, so much so that many bomb shelters were built in offshoots of the metro known as the Metro 2 or the Secret Metro, for military and government leaders, some of which you can actually go visit today. In fact, one of these bunkers that was made for Stalin, but was never completed until after his death, can be seen in the popular real-time strategy game Red Alert 3, where most of the mission briefings for the Soviet campaign were actually filmed. The world of Metro 2033 predominantly takes place down in these metro tunnels, attempting to fully realize what living for a long period of time in these tunnels would actually be like, and how people would react to anything else going on in the tunnels. Furthering that, Metro really wants to take a look at how civilian populations would end up acting if having to stay in these secluded, small, dank, dark, cramped spaces for a long period of time, how they would interact with each other, what kind of governments would they form, and how there would be interstational warfare occurring, basically with the guys behind you not even being involved in anything that was happening between the two warring factions. This is what makes Metro stand out and really takes a deep dive into how it would be like to live in one of these shelters for 20 plus years. With that, Metro 2033 does take place 20 years after the bombs fell all over Moscow and all over the world, and the inhabitants of Moscow have moved into the metro itself and have lived there for over 20 years at this point, with the surface still being highly irradiated and host to several different mutated beasts. Most of the population resides only inside the metro, with only a select few going up, as we discussed earlier, the Rangers, to the surface in search of supplies to help sustain society. 20 years is a long time to live in these tunnels. 20 years is a long time for one person to live anywhere, and really serves as the focal piece for the world itself, in which what makes the game shine. It threads the balance of analysis of interstational politics and beliefs to supernatural elements have taken root in the tunnels. Artyom's journey to Polis, you travel across the metro line, and with this you can see how each individual station has evolved to deal with their own situation that's currently plaguing its own residents. Looking deeply at Exhibition itself, the first station you started, you can see the building blocks of what would be a peaceful station in the metro. You can look at how the populace live and prosper, and how they're growing and raising pigs in the tunnels, the traders hawking their wares in the common square that they've collected throughout their journeys, the gunsmith creating firearms from old pipes, bent metal, and stripping older parts for firing pins and rusty stocks, which you in turn pay money for. Speaking of money, rubles and dollars are no longer even a form of currency down here. Rather, military-grade ammunition is the object of trade. While in the game this really just boils down to a simple unit of currency or type of ammunition that you use, it says a lot about what the people in the metro value, as it is better to have higher grade ammunition to protect yourself rather than useless paper money that is worth nothing but a kindling for the fire. It also, gameplay wise, really makes you focus. If you're running low on ammunition, you can either make do with your knife, or you can literally shoot your own money. It really brings that kind of choice-based gameplay focus in there to where you go, oh shit, I am out of bullets. I can either make do with what I have, which is nothing, or, like I had to do in a few cases, literally use my cash in order to make sure I make it to the next part of the game. It's a fascinating choice, and it's one that really is held in high regard in the Metro series. Going back into Exhibition itself, the Ramshackle Homes, made with sheets of plywood and cardboard, are cramped, small slices of habitation, often crammed side by side or stacked on top of each other, maximizing the space in the small station for small personal spaces for somebody to live, to rest after a long day's work. Communal spaces are basically littered all over the station in between different housing complexes or in the town square. Fires built under vent hoods show the ventilation system in order to allow the smoke of the fire to actually get out of the tunnel and not choke out the rest of the station by just flooding the actual tunnel itself. Exhibition really feels truly lived in, and with many people in your home station knowing your name, asking how you're doing, asking how your dad's doing, and want to know more about what's going on with Dark Ones, that because everybody seems to fucking know about it, even though it's supposed to be a secret, and knowing that you're about to leave to the next station just to go deliver some supplies. While walking to the tram car, you can hear public officials announcing their new freshly minted alliance with the next station, Riga, and how they will benefit from it and what they have to give in return. You also listen to the airing of grievances from the residents that live there that don't want to do with this partnership, or those who do support the partnership. It's The attention to detail is so minute in each one of these living spaces that it's just impossible to make it through. You can run through them like in about 10 seconds, but there's so much crammed into these small spaces that it's so easy to get lost in every side conversation, every side narrative that's occurring. Listening to the bitchings of the guy at the bar to the guy who's just trying to sell his fucking gun on the side. Furthermore, if you do pay attention, you can even hear rumors about what's going on to the other stations. Lines of communications are simple and unreliable, and thus much of the information is garnered from either rangers or traders coming from across different stations and spreading the news of what's going on in the metro. It's actually a fantastic way. If you just stop and pay attention, you can learn a lot about what you're about to come up against. If you know, you can listen to guys talking about how the Nazis have invaded this other station that you know you're going to have to go to. And it's truly, like, if you pay attention, you can garner a lot from what you're about to be facing. Far more than most other games, the world of Metro really feels realized and handcrafted, in that every single person that you walk by, every shack, every space was made to be there for a reason. It feels like they've lived and existed long before your interaction with this world. As you walk through the stations, you can stop and listen to residents of the station discussing their lives, stories, woes, and wins. Even the most off-the-path characters provide context for building the entire world that is going to be the series of Metro. And this carries through to each of the individual stations as well. As stated before, Metro explores the vast differences in ideology between stations and how their interstation relationships work and interact, both in positive and negative outcomes. The beginning of the leg of your journey, as we said before, is traveling to the neighbor station of Riga, showing that their alliance between the stations has been formed, and with Riga providing protection and safe passage for the exhibition to the other side of the metro in exchange for food and supplies from exhibition, as they're known for their tea and their pig growth. As you travel further, the ideologies of the stations become even more bizarre and more hostile. The communists, because fuck, we can't have a game without communists, have created a foothold in I shit you not, Red Line, and have entrenched themselves in conscription, utilizing conscription and communist ideology and attempting to spread it all throughout the metro, often by force. As you enter the Armory station, for example, you hear from the station guard that whilst not under the control of the Red Line, it has become in fact a de facto satellite station of the communists, leading to your capture for being a spy and subsequent chasing and ultimately sneaking out of the station on the underside of a trolley that's going to the front lines to fight the Fourth Reich faction, or the fucking Nazis. It turns out that humans are still shitty. Even once all the humans have been forced underground, we as people cannot stop killing each other for territorial control, and Metro takes this to the next level. As you navigate these zones, avoiding detection with some of the not so great stealth sequences, much like the other stations themselves, you learn a lot about these factions from sidebar conversations, like they wanted to join the Red Line, or the current conflict between the Nazis and the Reds, and what each side hopes to gain. You hear about how this man joined the Nazis in order to make sure that they were bringing peace and order, and no matter what way necessary, to the rest of the metro. You can literally, as you're sneaking through, stop and listen to conversations between two guards, just like saying, hey, is this worth it? Are we doing the right thing here? It's hard to tell sometimes, but it really does feel like these are real people. And competing with both of those, naturally, is the uber capitalist group, known as the Hansa, whose large reliance on trading, money-making, and order have allowed the stations within the Hansa to be the envy of the entire metro, with things such as running water, electricity, computers, and fanciful foods. Having these luxury allowed the Hansa, of course, to defend their borders tooth and nail, executing anybody who tries to sneak onto their line. Every aspect of each individual station, as well as the interpolitical relationships between the stations, feel really like they were handcrafted and truly realize this is truly the shining star of Metro 2033, and in my opinion, the main and only true reason for this game's success in order to gain any sort of following. While on one hand you have all of this realistic world building between interpolitical conflict and just listen to people go about their day and telling you their life story, is also truly juxtaposed with the supernatural elements that have grown within the Metro. Stories of ghosts, spirits, whisperings in the walls and pipes, and the mind-altering dark ones all leave Metro with this undertone of unease and unknown lurking behind the squabbles of men that occur in the Metro. This comes really at the forefront early when you're traveling to Riga, and the captain of your transport specifically talks about not wanting to go down a certain tunnel due to an indescribable unease that he feels when he's going throughout that tunnel. As you go down the tunnel, naturally shit happens. Odd occurrences cause the entire party to pass out, known as anomalies, and only because Artyom seems to have some sort of resistance to it does he manage to guide the team to safety, after of course killing 30-something odd beasts, because it's a fucking video game still. Because of this run-in, Bourbon, who you meet over at Riga, and a traveler, notorious scammer, ask for your help to go through another tunnel with also reported anomaly activity in it, and him needing your help to make it through. In this, you have visions from the influences of the Dark Ones affecting your mind. All of the supernatural elements really come to a head once again when Artyom meets up with Khan after the very untragically death of Bourbon from bandits. Khan, the mystical soothsayer that has real deep knowledge of the spirits, the supernatural, and the anomaly activity going on within the Metro. He explains that the dead do not rest and their spirits live within the pipes, talking to passerbys and truly trying to reach out as their spirits have nowhere to go. They are forever damned to the Metro tunnels. He helps attune Artyom to his gift by being more sensitive to these, able to see their silhouettes still haunting these tunnels to this day. This is the deep underlying through line goes throughout the Metro series, giving unease to the world that is so unbelievably fucked up with human conflict. The sensitivity also is directly related to Artyom's influence from the Dark Ones, who makes appearances throughout his journey, guiding him, asking him for help and cryptic messages of the past. And while seen trudging across the surface, and this is spoilers for the end of Metro 2033, this all comes to a head when you make it to the top of the radio tower to order to blow up the Dark Ones and save the day and kill all of them in one single missile shot. Don't ask how we got missiles, but we found fucking missiles. If the player helps enough people in the Metro, or gets the good ending because fucking video games again, you're presented with the choice of destroying the Dark Ones or allowing them to live. The Dark Ones will stare at you. They'll walk right up to your face. You can shoot them, and then they'll plead with you to spare them that all they want is to have peace with men, and do not know how to even interact, and you're the only one who can understand them. Once again, the supernatural elements come to the forefront, and the inceptions of these visions have far greater consequences on the Metro as a whole, far greater than any small-time squabble below the tunnels. Whilst I would love for the two aspects to come into more conflict with each other, it does provide a sense of whilst human killing human is important, there is something on a grander stage that is occurring that, whether known or not, has a larger effect on the populace than anybody truly realizes. While I wish this was handled with a little bit more exposition and not being so presented as a choice and let the narrative just play out as it should, as a writer intends it to, this ending really does wonders to make you feel like that you silently had a far greater impact than any person in the Metro would ever seem to realize. I find that where video games truly excel as a medium is when the world is the focal point of the narrative rather than the characters and interactions. In this thought, Metro 2033 excels and why it's garnered so much love and support throughout the years. If Metro was stripped of its world, you would kind of just be left with many stiff, one-note characters with kind of piss-poor animations and janky voice acting, and they all kind of look like a buffalo had sex with a Play-Doh container, and that's what you kind of got out of it. Artyom is thrust into the journey by a singular simplistic motive that leads to a far greater but still simple action of destroying the nest of the Dark Ones. Short of Khan, whose character from the onset is shrouded in mystery, where you're given glimpses of his past and his interactions with the supernatural and the tunnel, most of the characters' motives and designs are simplistic. I want to get over here to kill that guy. I want to go over here to make that money. We're going to kill the Dark Ones. The Rangers are rough, gruff soldiers fighting for the Metro. The Nazis are assholes. The Communists are assholes. And you are rarely with any character for any meaningful amount of time to even be worth any sort of time deeply characterizing anyone. With this, it makes the journey feel more like a archetype rather than a human with their own motives and flaws. Mechanically as well, the game feels, for lack of a better word, old. Metro gives you the option of going loud and murking every bandit, commie, Nazi, or monster in your path, or sneaking by its said group like a rat in the night. You avoid conflict wherever possible in order to minimize killing. On the same token, the game incentivizes you to go stealth route, which is the only true way to get the good ending, with enough of their hidden karma system, because once again, video games. The issue is that the stealth just doesn't fucking work. There were countless times where a single headshot from the silent pneumatic rifle takes out a patrol, to which the entire area is lit up on alert despite no one being around to witness the body even fall. Couple this with the fact that every guard in the metro seems to have fucking infrared and x-ray vision, spotting you in the darkness behind 17 boxes and 5 consoles and throwing rounds at you like a massive tidal wave of death. When it does work though, the stealth does feel pretty good. And if this is the route you're taking, be prepared to take a lot of restarting of checkpoints. I hit the point eventually where I stopped caring so much about stealth and just systematically crouched through the entire map, headshotting everyone. Alarms be damned. I would also be remiss if I pointed out the large difficulty spikes that occur in the latter half of the game, between the bridge loaded with no less than probably 60 plus enemies when sneaking between the red line and the Nazis, or the dreaded library where it's filled with beasts that, called the librarians, lol, that, no lie, take about 26 rounds of shotgun ammo just to kill one of them. And the building is loaded with them. I ended up pissing through all of my military ammo because of these forced encounters in the first half, making me not only ammo starved but subsequently poor afterwards. Between the AI also not being very smart and at fighting at all, collision issues with crawl spaces leaving me to have to restart the save more often than not just to fucking move again, and God forbid the abhorrent jump puzzles that have almost no telegraphing of where to go next. I'm looking at you, radio tower. This game is definitely not without its faults. However, I do think Metro 2033 is a very solid point for the series and a game that's well worth your time. The world that's being realized both graphically as well as conceptually really leave the player with the want to learn more about this type of dystopia. At the time, exploring the Russian area of the nuclear post-apocalyptic scene was a welcome breath of fresh air, a freshly radiated air, and the setting being set to true real nuclear holocaust plans in said city is a great take on the genre as a whole. We're so used to the fallouts and shit of the world where it's just wandering through the wasteland with God be damned about anything else. While narratively it seems loose, it's really easy just to get lost in the world of Metro. But as I said before, this won't be the last taste of this universe that we'll have. In the next video, we'll be looking more into Metro Last Light, the follow-up and expansion to this already well-realized world, and that really improves the seeds sown by Metro 2033 and cultivates it in a much better way. Thank you guys so much for checking this video. If you guys have any feedback or anything that you want to let me know, leave it down in the comments below. It's my first time doing one of these types of things, so definitely let me know. It definitely always helps. I big appreciate you guys. If you liked it, leave a like, hit that sub button. It also makes you 10x% smarter, so do that and your riches will compound with wealth. So until the next one, I'll catch you guys later.